This year's harvest around the country is occurring earlier than almost ever before, Darren. So the question I've gotten lately is, okay, if I'm gonna get done with harvest 2 to 4 weeks earlier than normal, is there anything in particular I should do with that extra time that would make me more money on my farm?
Well, this is what I like, extra time. You know, they always say, oh, you can't create more time. Yes, you can. If you have a lot of heat during the summer, you get an early harvest. Farmers have more time to get things done in the northern part of our country before the snow hits. And that's really something that on our farm, we're always trying to get harvest done before there's snow so we don't have big issues. Well, now we've got quite a bit of time to do things. One of the first things that we're gonna do is we're gonna be tiling some areas. Now, I know that some people will hear this and say, wait a minute, we had a terrible drought. Why are you worried about getting rid of moisture? We need more moisture.
Well, yes, but the whole thing is we're going to farm for many, many, many years, and our family, a lot of times on the farm, is going to farm for generations. Well, we want to get that ground in great shape, and by tiling, you do so many good things for your farm. It's not just about moisture removal. It's about getting your soil fixed. It's about reducing compaction. It's about improving bad soil pH areas. I mean, even for that matter, it's about getting stuck less, because it's one of those, well, seriously, I mean, it's one of those things. You end up destroying equipment, people get hurt. It's just a bad deal overall, and we want to get those things fixed. And this is the year to get things done, because now you can get into a lot of those areas that were somewhat questionable in the past, a little too wet. You can go right through everything right now.
Well, you know, it's kind of amazing this year. With all the drought that we had across the country and in our state as well, there were parts of the state where the crop still made it. You know, they caught a couple of rains here and there, and they still got a halfway decent crop. But parts of those fields, Brian, in the lower parts where it was heavier ground, it should have been some of the best crop in a dry year. Well, they actually flooded out or drowned out early in the spring.
Right, so that crop didn't die because of drought. It died because there was too much moisture early in the year, and then that just set the farmer up for a bad crop all the way through. On our own farm even, you could see right where some of the tile lines were. That's where our best crop is this fall. So even though it was a dry year, we were still too wet for a short period of time this spring. And the point is, you've got to give your plants the best opportunity possible to get very deep roots early in the year. If they can't develop those deep roots early in the year, a dry summer comes along and you're done. I mean, there's nothing much you can do. Okay, so tiling, very important. Another thing a lot of farmers are considering, because harvest has come off so early, is putting in a little winter wheat this fall. But Darren, the wheat price isn't that good. Everybody's saying, I want corn and beans. So what's going to happen with winter wheat acres this fall?
Well, that's a good question, Brian. It's pretty tough to compete against those high prices on corn and soybeans. But let's say that you're going to put some wheat in. You're concerned about having a good rotation. Maybe you've got some Roundup resistant weeds in your area and you say, you know what, I can wipe them out in wheat. I'm going to put some wheat on some acres out there. That's fine. But now we've got a little bit early harvest here, and like you see in this particular field that was wheat, there's some volunteers popping up. If you're going to put wheat back into a situation, whether it's coming off wheat or another crop, you want to make sure that you stop that green bridge. You don't want to have any green plants growing out there for at least 2 weeks before you seed. That way you don't have a big issue with any kind of bugs that may carry over from one crop to the next, or if you're coming off a grass crop going to wheat, which is a grass crop, of course, you don't want to have any of those diseases that can affect grass plants moving from one crop to the next. Otherwise, as your winter wheat comes up in the fall, it's already got disease, it's already got bugs, and you're set up for a disaster.
All right, with this early harvest, one of the most important things we want you to do is soil test. And the main reason why is because this year there's so much variability out there. Even on our own farm, we're going to have areas of 0, we're going to have areas of 220 bushel corn. Here's the problem. Those areas are in the same field. So
and often not that far away from each
right.
other.
So we've got areas that need nothing. We've got areas that need probably quite a bit. And how are you going to handle all that? You've got to do some soil testing to find out what you've got to begin with. And then if you've got some extra time, get yourself set up. You can do your own variable rate fertilizer. You can do your own grid soil sampling, these kind of things. And I know it may seem a little bit challenging. You say, oh, I don't know if I can handle that. There is better software that keeps coming out every single year. You can absolutely do these types of jobs yourself on your farm. It'll make you a lot of money. And then of course, tillage. I mean, it's something that every farmer does, is at least some tillage. Probably the #1 thing we want to focus on in the fall is compaction reduction.
Well, there's a couple things with tillage, Brian. One, a lot of that ground is pretty hard this year from the drought. Yep. And you know, you may have some issues with that you have to break things up, especially if you're going to do a fall seeded crop. You want to have a nice seed bed. The other thing would be, if you had some rain later on in the summer or early in the fall, you may have created some compaction issues as you were out there harvesting with a grain cart, with a combine, or trucks, or whatever was out in in your fields. We want to deal with those compacted areas because it sure showed up this year. Where we had compaction out in fields, wow, the crop really suffered when we went through this tough dry year. Now the other thing that we'll want to think about is residue management. We may have a lot of residue out there depending on what kind of crop you had. I try to do as little tillage as possible. Personally, I like strip till, but for you, it may be you want to do conventional tillage and you're just going to leave, a certain percentage, maybe it's 30% of the residue on top of the ground to protect the soil. Either way, you have to think about residue management and compaction when it comes to fall tillage.
Well, with that compaction on the tillage side though, the big thing that we want you to focus on is where is your compaction in the soil? Dig around a little bit, find out where it is, and get below the bottom hard pan. A lot of times that's going to be 16, 18, maybe even 20 inches deep. On our own farm, for example, we got a couple new fields this year. We're going to be doing some what we call zone building down deep. We're going to run a straight shank narrow point down about 20 inches deep or so in the soil. We want to do that so we cut some slices down through all compaction layers. It really helps get our roots a lot deeper, and it helps out dramatically in a year like this when we get drought.
Well, there's certainly a lot of things to do when you have an early harvest, and you can get a lot of work done that can improve your farm for many years to come. So don't squander your extra time this fall. Get some work done on your farm. You could set yourself up for a long time.
Well, one of the important things too that you need to do this fall is controlling our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?